Brought to you by 1AAuto.com, your source for quality replacement parts and the best service on the internet.
Hi, I'm Mike from 1AAuto. I hope this how-to video helps you out. And next time you need parts for your vehicle, think of 1AAuto.com. Thanks.
In this video, we're going to replace the rear heating tubes on this 2003 Caravan. Same as a lot of these Caravans in town and countries, and they often rust out in the back where they connect to the hoses, and we'll show you how that works. You'll need a new tube assembly from 1AAuto.com, pliers, catch pan, Phillips screwdriver, various millimeter sockets with a ratchet and extension, maybe something bigger for some extra leverage, jack and jack stands, and some extra coolant to refill. You want to start by draining the radiator fluid or the coolant, and under the driver's side, if you look up under the side of your radiator, you'll see there's a drain here. I'm going to connect a tube just to help direct the coolant. If you could turn it with your fingers, do it. If not, use pliers, and you want to turn, it's like a square. The valve is a square. You turn it just a quarter turn counterclockwise and pull it out. And obviously have a safety, or not a safety, but a drain pan underneath, and let the coolant drain until it stops. And once you've started the coolant, you can actually open up the radiator cap, and that'll allow it to drain even faster. Remove the passenger side front tire. If you don't have air tools, start with the vehicle on the ground, loosen the lug nuts, then raise and support the vehicle on jack stands and remove the wheel and tire the rest of the way. There are 4 large push-style pins. If you grab the inner wheel well and pull out, you can see I'm trying to pull out that top pin there. Possibly use a large screwdriver, go in underneath and dislodge those pins. There's another 2 a little over to the right, and there's 1 up above as well. And a pair of needle nose pliers can be helpful to get these out as well. Now remove the 2 Phillips screws that are right on the outside of the wheel opening. And then pull the inner wheel well kind of over to the side, and then back down and out of your way. And then this inner shield is held with 2 pins right up top. I just pull it straight down to get those pins out. We're going to remove the airbox. There's a 10mm bolt right here. Remove that. Then use a screwdriver and pry up on the relieve hose and pull it off. And then the airflow sensor, I should have taken a better picture of this, but the airflow sensor plugs in and back. There's a little red safety clip that you pry out with a screwdriver. You can see it there. And then press the tab and disconnect the airflow sensor, and then loosen up this hose clamp that holds that intake tube onto the throttle body. And now you can pull up on the whole airbox and then pull the intake tube from the throttle body. And there is another pin kind of holding it to the side. I open up the box, just undo the clamps. There's a clamp on the side and a clamp on the back, and you can take the top of the air cleaner box off, pull the air cleaner out. And then I realize that there's a little clamp in the side, twist it to the side, and then you can pull the box up and out. Okay, and then one of the cushions stays on the stud, so I just take it off the stud and push it back onto the airbox. Support your engine with a jack. Again, you're not trying to lift the car up with the engine, you're just supporting it. And then you want to remove these 3 15mm bolts. I'll fast forward here as I remove those bolts, and you'll see as I remove the third one, the weight of the engine actually comes off of the mount, and it kind of comes up a little bit. But then once you remove those, you actually want to let the engine down and give yourself some more room at the top, but still support it with the jack a little bit. Now you want to loosen the three 13mm bolts that hold the pulley onto the water pump. As you can see I'm doing here. You just use a 13mm wrench. And you just loosen them up until you can move them with your hands a little bit. You don't want to take them off yet, you just want to loosen them. You want to remove the belt. See, I'm using a 21mm to move that belt tensioner, and then I pull the belt off of one of the pulleys that you can't see. Bad shot on my part. Remove the belt from the water pump pulley, and then just kind of get the belt out of the way, and now remove those bolts the rest of the way with your fingers, and then you just kind of pull the belt or the pulley off. It doesn't come out because of the low clearance between the pump and the body of the car. So I have the new pump here just to show you kind of where the holes are. 4 of the bolts are pretty easy to get to from this vantage. You can see 2 of them right there. One of them is a little higher, and one of them is over on the left. Have a drip pan in place, and you're going to remove those bolts. And the first 3, see, just use a 10mm socket and ratchet. And the 3 that are right down close to the bottom are really no issue. I'll fast forward as I just kind of take those out. Again, 10mm socket and ratchet. Use an extension if it helps. The bolt that is furthest back and highest up is probably the most difficult one. You'll have to have your vehicle up on jack and jack stands and have the jack supporting the engine. But you want to reach, you can see the oil pan and the oil drain is there, and I'm reaching up through a brace kind of near where the exhaust is, and you kind of reach up and over the back of the water pump and get access to that 4th bolt, or like I said, the bolt that's highest and most furthest back. You basically get from behind. And then the top bolt, the last bolt, you want to remove your engine mount the rest of the way. So remove the 2 bolts that hold the mount to the body. So now we're back up top. Remove those 2 bolts and then pull that engine mount up and out. Raise your engine back up, and this will allow the best access to the topmost bolt in the water pump. Reach in there with your 10mm socket and ratchet and remove it. And it's a little bit hard to get access to it. It's kind of a small space, so you just kind of got to work it out slowly. And then reach up in, and the pump will come loose. It's kind of a matter of twisting a little bit, and then you lift it up and out. And then pull it and the pulley out at the same time. Okay, make sure that you clean up the mounting area where the water pump goes. And I just used, mine was fairly clean, just used a paper towel, wipe it down, make sure there's no residue left. Make sure you get the O-ring well seated onto the water pump, and then there's a little plastic plug that you can transfer over from your old one. And then combine the pump with the pulley and put it up into place. And I'm just going to fast forward here. You want to start all 5 bolts in, kind of get them finger tight first. Then you want to go around 2 different times. One time, just make the bolts snug with your socket and ratchet. And then the last time, you want to tighten them between 12 and 13 foot-pounds. And it's really impossible to get a torque wrench in there. So basically as tight as you can get it with a small 1/4 inch socket and ratchet will work fine. And again, put them in by hand, make sure you get them all started by hand first, then tighten them snug, and then tighten them up with a 1/4 inch ratchet and socket. And you'll have to lift up and lower the engine a couple times as you do that top and the lower bolts. Position your pulley and start in the 3 13mm bolts and tighten those up as much as you can, pretty much by hand. And then we'll put the belt on, and you can tighten them up after the belt's on. Start the belt on, get it around the crank pulley, around the water pump pulley, and you actually want to have it off of the right hand pulley. From the top, make sure you get the belt up over the power steering pump pulley, which is the one that is up high and in the back, and then down underneath the tensioner. I got to pull it off of the lower pulley just a little more to give it some slack. So down under that tensioner, and then pull it up onto the alternator. So now it's on all the pulleys except for that larger, lower one that's to the right in our lower shot. Okay, use your large wrench again on the tensioner, push it up, which brings the tensioner down, and put the belt around, and then check it on the lower pulleys. And then up top, make sure it's on the alternator well, and back on the power steering pump correctly. And now tighten up those 3 13mm bolts on the water pump pulley. And you can usually get to 2 of them easily, and what will happen is when you get them really tight enough, the pulley will start slipping in the belt, and you can pull the other bolt around so you can reach it. Put your right hand or passenger side engine mount back in. Okay, now you'll want to jack the engine back up somewhat into place. Okay, I'll fast forward. Start those 3 top bolts in before you start the bottom ones in. Don't tighten anything up. Get them all 5 started first. Then you can tighten the bottom ones up and then the top ones. And I just kind of tighten them preliminarily with the air tools. And then I use a ratchet handle to tighten them up. Okay, put the airbox back in place. There was actually a clip on and harness that I had taken off, so I just resecure that, then push the airbox back in place, secure it with that 10mm bolt, then put the lid back in place. You push it in and then lock the clips back on. Be careful, I did get the wiper washer hose got jammed in there a little bit. That's why I'm having a little trouble with it. Once I got the hose out of the way, then it went together fine. Make sure you plug in the mass airflow sensor and put that safety clip back in, and put the breather hose back on and tighten up the clamp. And you can remove the jack. Fast forward a little bit, put that lower cover back in place, and it has the 2 pins and they're kind of up in there. You just got to feel your way in there and set those pins and get that in place. Now flip the inner fender back in and set it in place, and then put those 3 pins in place to hold it. And then reinsert the 2 screws that hold the wheel well to the fender or the bumper cover. Reinstall your wheel and tire, and if you put the 2 lug nuts on that are opposite the Schrader valve or the fill valve, then you can pop your hubcap on if you have hubcaps, and then put on all the rest of the lug nuts. And then you can let your vehicle down, and you want to make sure you torque your lug nuts to 100 foot-pounds. Now you want to make sure that you reset your radiator drain. Make sure you push it in. It should push in and then turn a quarter of a turn from the kind of horizontal position to the straight up and down position. So we pushed it in, and then we needed pliers to turn it the 90 degrees to get it to close. Now you've drained your cooling system totally, so you want to refill it with the correct 50-50 mixture, and you're going to fill the radiator directly. You fill it, you'll see it come up to the top, and then it'll go down some, and then fill it again until you top off the radiator. Then replace and secure your radiator cap. And then you're going to want to fill the coolant reservoir, and it's over near the battery, and you basically want to fill it to the max fill line. And then you're going to want to start your vehicle up and check for any leaks, get it to idle, get the thing up to temperature, make sure there's no coolant dripping anywhere. And you'll see just in a second as I finish up, we'll draw a little line for you. There is a mark on the bottle, but I also drew a little line for you there digitally. That's basically the max fill line. So you start your vehicle up, get the coolant circulating. This vehicle has rear air. You want to make sure you turn on your front heat and your rear heat as well. That'll help get coolant circulated to those portions of the heating system. And start it up. Monitor your coolant in your coolant tank. Drive it for about 10 minutes. You'll notice that probably the heat doesn't work right away. It'll take a little while for the heat to work. But just check your coolant after the first 10 minutes of driving. Drive it again for another 10 minutes. And just for the first few days that you drive the car, just check that coolant tank and make sure that you're always between the minimum and the maximum. Thanks for tuning in. We hope this video helped you out. Next time you need parts for your car, please visit oneauto.com. Also check out our other helpful how-to as well as diagnosis videos.